Good morning and welcome to the June Happy Pride 2022 open meeting of the Federal Communications Commission. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce our agenda this morning?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good morning to you and good morning, Commissioners. For today's meeting, you will hear 3 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of inquiry seeking comment on whether changes in the Commission's rules and policies are needed to facilitate the development of commercial and private wireless networks offshore. Second, you will consider a public notice to examine recent technological improvements to and deployments of location-based routing for wireless 911 calls, as well as steps the Commission could take to help reduce misrouted 911 calls. Third, you will consider an enforcement action. Please note Item 3, preserving local radio programming from the Media Bureau, and Item 5, affordable connectivity program transparency data collection from the Wireline Competition Bureau, and as listed on the Commission's June 1st, 2022 Sunshine Notice, have been adopted by the Commission and deleted from today's agenda. The first item on your agenda is titled Facilitating Access to Spectrum for Offshore Uses and Operations and will be presented by the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. Charles Mathias, Deputy Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Mathias, please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. Today, the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau is pleased to present for your consideration an item that would seek comment on whether changes in the Commission's rules and policies are needed to facilitate the development of commercial and private wireless networks offshore. I'd like to thank the WTB team for their hard work on this item and the other bureaus and offices for their contributions. Nellie Fusner, an attorney in the Mobility Division of the Wireless Bureau, will present this item.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. This notice of inquiry before you today would seek comment on whether changes to the Commission's rules or policies are needed to facilitate the development of commercial and private wireless networks offshore. Recognizing that U.S. commercial and scientific endeavors may benefit from increased access to spectrum offshore, the notice aims to gather information on offshore operation use cases and their potential. Among other questions, it would seek comment on the types of offshore uses that require spectrum, the appropriate spectrum bands to support offshore uses, and potential assignment mechanisms. The notice would acknowledge that for licenses on land, the Commission continues to meet increasing demands for spectrum and generally has done so on a band-by-band or service-by-service basis as technology advances and spectrum needs evolve. The Commission has utilized a wide array of models for assigning spectrum rights because of a wide diversity of land-based needs. With respect to access offshore for land-based spectrum, however, existing mechanisms may not be meeting current demand. This notice would seek comment on demand for additional offshore spectrum access and ask questions about facilitating spectrum usage for offshore operations. Recognizing that in the past, demand was driven largely by the offshore oil drilling industry's needs for spectrum access, the notice seeks comment on how demand may have grown among other industries and asks commenters to identify the kinds of offshore operations that would benefit from greater access to spectrum, both now and in the future. With respect to possible Commission access to facilitate additional offshore operations, the notice would seek comment on different spectrum rights models, including shared spectrum rights, secondary use rights, and primary use rights. Related, the notice would seek comment on potential assignment mechanisms for initial licensing of offshore operations, such as license by rule, site-based licensing, or geographic area licensing. It would also inquire whether unlicensed spectrum use or spectrum leasing could support the needs of offshore operations. The notice would seek comment on spectrum characteristics needed to support offshore operations, including asking which individual spectrum bands or combination thereof could best support the various needs of offshore operations. In considering possible spectrum bands, it would ask commenters to take into consideration protection of incumbent operations as necessary. Finally, the notice would discuss approaches taken by other countries to authorize the use of offshore spectrum and seek comment on whether those approaches could inform the Commission's policies here. The Wireless Telecommunications Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges to make technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Thanks so much. Back in 2019, I had the chance to go down to Galveston, Texas, and actually get on board an oil rig platform and sort of see firsthand the connectivity needs that come in with that type of massive operation. So for my part, during that visit, I got to hear about the various 600, 700 megahertz spectrum bands that were already being used to try to improve connectivity out there. And therefore, I'm really glad that flash forward to today, we're looking at an NOI that could help support increased connectivity out there. After all, I think a lot of Americans are feeling the pain at the pump right now. So I'm glad that the FCC, at least for its part, is playing a small role in perhaps helping to facilitate some more offshore drilling. So I'm glad to see that. I just wish that desire was shared more across the federal government, but that definitely gets into agencies that are far outside of the FCC's or the FCC's expertise. So really appreciate bringing this item forward. It's got a bit of a convoluted name, Facilitating Access to Spectrum for Offshore Use and Operations. I tried to propose a shorthand of the Drill Baby Drill NOI, but we did not have unanimous consent for making that change. But nonetheless, I will support it. So thanks.
Yeah, that name was never going to happen. Now we'll hear from Commissioner Starks.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. From the inception of cellular licensing way back in the 1980s, the Commission has had a framework in place for bringing wireless connectivity to offshore platforms drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. The time has come to explore solutions that also work for offshore renewables in the Gulf, on the Atlantic, seaboard off the West Coast, wherever else the ocean takes us. I have talked often about how the work we do in this building can help mitigate climate change and its harmful effects. Earlier this year at State of the Net, I shared my vision for a technology and telecom sector that would build out the environmental benefits along with the economic benefits of 5G, embracing efficient new radio technologies that consume dramatically less energy per bit, driving impact through energy-saving applications like smart grids and smart cities, and minimizing electronic waste, just to name a few. Here at the FCC, our programs and our decisions are also working to improve the resilience, of course, of our communication networks and make sure that more Americans stay connected during severe storms and other alarmingly frequent natural disasters. But of course, we shouldn't stop there. And after one of the warmest years on record, we have to keep pushing. I support this NOI because it takes a critical, important step towards ensuring that our rules work for a clean energy economy. By 2030, the federal government is targeting at least 30 gigawatts in offshore wind capacity, more than 1,000 times 2019 deployments, yet still a small fraction of our potential. States from North Carolina to Massachusetts have upped the ante with targets that in the aggregate exceed that federal amount. So with the hubs of economic activity and employment that these projects will spin out, from busier ports to offshore grids to an uptick in American shoreside manufacturing, this is important work. Our inquiry puts us ahead of the game in understanding these new connectivity requirements, makes sure that we'll have the right framework in place to meet the needs. And we correctly seek comment on virtually every framework imaginable, licensed by rule, licensed by site, licensed light, by geography, and even unlicensed, so that we can best calibrate our approach to each band and the nature of the demand behind it. I thank the Chairwoman for bringing it. I'm grateful to the Commission staff who developed the item. It has my full support.
All right, Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. Innovative spectrum management policies are of the utmost necessity as available spectrum for new technology becomes more scarce with each passing day. From the ongoing growth of IoT devices to ground-penetrating radar and wireless charging, we continue to see a welcome torrent of groundbreaking tools that require new spectrum and models to operate. Regarding today's item, I'm pleased that this notice of inquiry looks closely at how the FCC can foster the growth of offshore commercial and private networks. It is important that the FCC stay ahead of the curve in its consideration of upcoming commercial spectrum needs, and this item does just that. So I'm happy to support it, and I thank the Wireless Bureau staff for their thoughtful work.
Thank you, Commissioners. If there's one thing that you can count on with spectrum policy in the United States, it is creativity. The willingness to test frequency frontiers is part of our national DNA. It is what led us to commercial spectrum auctions and incentive auctions, unlicensed airwaves, dynamic spectrum sharing models, and more. So here we go again. Now, in the past, most of our efforts to provide access to spectrum have stopped at our shorelines. But we know there are a lot of industrial, scientific, and recreational endeavors that could benefit from greater access to spectrum offshore. So we're taking steps to facilitate more of this kind of activity with an inquiry that asks broad questions about the kind of offshore operations that may require access to airwaves, the right combination of spectrum bands for these uses, and creative licensed and unlicensed ideas for assigning these rights. Now, in practice, this can help the development of offshore wind farms that harness wind over water and convert it to renewable electricity. It can mean improved tsunami warning systems with sensors that help predict and manage natural disasters. It can lead to more opportunities to keep tabs on aquatic life so we better understand the state of marine life. And it can also provide public safety with further control of drones assisting in offshore rescue and search missions. Of course, while we're making more spectrum available at sea, I want to point out we are not slowing down on land. We're freeing up more spectrum, especially mid-band spectrum for 5G. In October, we kicked off an auction of 100 megahertz of mid-band prime spectrum in the 3.45 gigahertz band. Last month, we granted more than 4,000 licenses won in that auction. We've also granted more than 5,600 licenses in the C-band, as well as 335 licenses in the 2.5 gigahertz band that will support broadband service in our tribal communities. And we're rolling right into our next mid-band spectrum auction that kicks off in July. But back to the inquiry before us and the possibilities of offshore airwaves, it is clear that a new era of innovation at sea lies ahead. Let's make sure our efforts at the agency do more than just keep pace. Let's make sure they lead with the kind of creativity that has always been a hallmark of our spectrum policy. So I want to thank the many staff responsible for this effort, including Peter Doronko, Nellie Fusner, Jessica Griffinius, Carrie Hicks, John Markham, Charles Mathias, Roger Noel, Jessica Quinley, Blaise Cinto, Joel Tabenblatt, and Brian Wondrak from the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. Jonathan Campbell, Nicholas Copeland, Judith Dempsey, Rachel Kazan, Kate Matraves, Julia Henry, and Mark Montano, Eric Salanavora, Martha Standstill, John Stockdale, Emily Talaga, and Alex Yankovich from the Office of Economics and Analytics. Nesse Gondelsberger, Dante Ibarra, Carl Kensinger, Wayne Layton, Olga Madruga-Forty, Kathy O'Brien, Andrew Pegruz, Jim Schlichting, and Tom Sullivan from the International Bureau, John Evanoff, David Firth, Lauren Kravitz, and Nicole Guinness from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, Douglas Klein, William Richardson, and Anjali Singh from the Office of General Counsel, and Bodman Badapur, Martin Doskat, Michael Ha, Ira Keltz, Nicholas Oros, Jameson Prine, Ron Rapazzi, Anthony Serafini, Dana Schaefer, Thomas Schrubel, and Hugh Van Tile from the Office of Engineering and Technology. We'll now proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item's adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please announce the next item on today's agenda.
Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners, the second item on your agenda will be presented by the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau and is titled Improving Wireless 911 Call Routing. Deborah Jordan, Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. Jordan, please proceed.
Good morning, Chairwoman Rosenworcel and Commissioners. If you call 911 for help, every minute and indeed every second can matter. For first responders to reach you as quickly as possible, your call should be routed to the 911 call center that serves the jurisdiction from which you are calling. Unfortunately, that is not always the case if you call 911 from a wireless phone. Wireless 911 calls are typically routed to 911 call centers based on the location of the cell tower that handles the call. But in some cases, for example, if a call is made near a county or city border, the nearest cell tower may be in a neighboring jurisdiction. In these cases, the call is routed to a 911 call center in that neighboring jurisdiction, not the call center that serves the caller's location. These wireless 911 calls must then be rerouted to the proper call center, which can waste valuable time and resources during emergencies. For example, here in the National Capital Region, a 911 wireless call placed from the District of Columbia may connect with a cell tower in suburban Maryland or Virginia. The call is then routed to a Maryland or Virginia call center, which then must identify and transfer the call to that center that can dispatch emergency responders to the caller's location in DC. In 2018, the Commission released a notice of inquiry that sought comment on the feasibility of routing 911 calls based on the location of the caller as opposed to the location of the cell tower that handles that call. Many commenters said that location-based routing was potentially feasible with further technological advancement. Since then, there have been significant technological advances, and some wireless carriers have started to implement location-based routing on their networks. Today, we present to you a public notice to refresh the record on the state of location-based routing technologies and their implementation. With me today from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau is Rachel Ware, an attorney and advisor in the Policy and Licensing Division. I would also like to thank the other Bureau staff who worked on this item, as well as the other bureaus and offices that contributed. Now to Rachel.
Thank you, Chief Jordan. Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. Location-based routing uses information gathered from the wireless handset to more accurately route 911 calls. This technology ensures that the first 911 call center, or public safety answering point as they're known, that receives a call is the one closest to the caller and the one that can dispatch emergency responders. Since the Commission released its notice of inquiry on location-based routing 4 years ago, there have been several exciting developments related to this technology. For example, device manufacturers have started to configure consumer handsets to allow carriers to gather information for purposes of emergency routing. In December of 2020, T-Mobile launched location-based routing in certain jurisdictions in Texas and Washington State. More recently, in May 2022, AT&T announced a plan for the nationwide rollout of location-based routing on its network. In light of these advancements, the public notice before you seeks to refresh the record in this proceeding. In particular, the public notice would invite parties to provide the latest information on improvements to location-based routing and the deployment of such technologies on wireless carrier networks. It would also ask for updated information on the frequency of wireless 911 call misroutes and any developments in operations or industry standards to address the problem. In addition, the public notice would seek comment on whether location-based routing could be used to route text to 911 and any interdependencies between location-based routing and next-generation 911. Finally, the public notice would seek comment on how the Commission can facilitate improved wireless 911 routing and promote location-based routing for 911 calls. The Bureau recommends the Commission adopt this public notice and requests editorial privileges for technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Thanks. Thanks to the Bureau team for your presentation. I think as a country, we've done a really great job of sort of getting it into everybody's mind across all of our populations and age group that when disaster strikes, when an emergency hits, you call 911. And the other side of that is we all very much feel like that call is going to go through and help is on its way. And consumers aren't network engineers. They have no idea in an emergency situation that there's a possibility that this could go to the wrong jurisdiction or even be cognizant of trying to help the person that's taking the call realize that they're in a different jurisdiction. I think DC is a great microcosm for that type of a situation. And there was a report out that looked at just 5 911 call centers in the DC region and said that 100,000 calls went to the wrong jurisdiction at first and had to be rerouted. And that's seconds, that's minutes. And so we need to continue, and we do this in a lot of 911 and proceedings to make sure that the technical reality matches what we very much ingrained in everybody is when there's an emergency, you call 911, someone that can help you is going to pick it up, and they're going to be there as quickly as possible. So I'm glad we're refreshing the record here to make sure that if there's ways that we can improve that and drive that number of misrouted calls down to 0, that we should do it. So thanks to the chair for bringing this item forward.
Thank you. Well put. Now, Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Quite simply, the information gathered about location-based routing of wireless 911 calls from the item before us today will save lives. Going back to 2018, when we adopted the notice of inquiry, we had known Then that legacy routing technologies, including tower-based routing, can cause 911 calls to be misrouted. In that notice of inquiry, we sought comment on the more accurate technologies such as location-based routing that would mitigate the issue. That problem still remains, and so now I recognize that there's been good progress here in deploying more advanced technologies that allow for more accurate call routing, but not enough, especially when we're talking about 911. And to the example that Commissioner Carr just mentioned, our local NBC affiliate here released that investigative report that found, as he said, 100,000 911 calls each year here in our backyard were misrouted and required a transfer. That's hundreds of calls that aren't reaching the correct 911 call center, and we have got to do better. So I'm glad that we're going to refresh the record to determine how close we are to full deployment of location-based routing. I'm very anxious to review the record, especially to see what we can do to facilitate additional deployment, and this cannot wait. 911 calls must reach the correct 911 operator. Additionally, this public notice is important for reasons beyond 911. A few weeks ago, along with my colleagues, I spoke at the Commission's 988 Geolocation Forum, and at that forum, panel after panel articulated the importance of being able to geolocate a 988 call to ensure that proper resources are deployed for those facing a crisis. The same is true, of course, of emergency numbers that people rely on, such as the National Poison Control Hotline or even 211. And so the record that develops from this public notice will help with these emergency services as well. I've also got to take a quick note to mention that Rachel was an intern in my office. I'm proud of you, young lady, and what you're doing here truly is going to help Americans. And so keep up the good work. And of course, thank you to the Commission staff more broadly for their hard work on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. As Chief Jordan noted, in an emergency, every second counts, and a misrouted 911 call can add many seconds or minutes in the wait for help to arrive. Maybe that's the difference between life and death. So it's great that we're looking into this issue again. In light of all that's happened in the 4 years since we last saw public comment on this problem, I'm very happy that we're putting out a new public notice and taking a fresh look at the state of location-based routing and what we can do to make it better. So thanks very much to the Public Safety Bureau for their hard work on this.
Thank you, Commissioners. As the old saying goes, you may only call 911 once in your life, but it will be the most important call you ever make. That is one call you want to go through. I know because I have watched our nation's 911 operators in action in dozens of call centers across the country. In each and every one, I saw operators take calls with steely calm and then help assure the caller that help is on the way. But what I saw in a 911 call center in Little Rock, Arkansas, stays with me. The center was really small, but it was very active. The desks were humming as the calls tumbled in. And the pride the public safety officials had for their work was palpable. But what struck me most when I visited is that I learned in the city of Little Rock, if you call 911 using your wireless phone in the corner of the 911 call center, your call wouldn't get routed to the Little Rock public safety answering point. It would be answered by a 911 call center in North Little Rock, which is on the other side of the Arkansas River. Now that's a problem, because when you make a 911 call, seconds matter. 911 calls that are routed to the wrong call center need to be rerouted to the right one, and that takes time you may not have. So here's the good news. Back in 2018, the Commission started an inquiry to try to explore the possibilities of location-based routing to fix this problem and speed up 911 response. Since then, some of our largest nationwide carriers have made some progress using this technology in parts of their networks. Again, that's good. But for most of the country today, the closest cell tower with the strongest signal will still route the 911 call, and that doesn't guarantee it will go to the right call center that can send help in the fastest way. So today we're jump-starting our efforts to support location-based routing. And with this public notice, we seek to build an updated record on carrier experiences, the state of the technology, and the steps this agency could take to expedite and improve 911 call routing. Now, when it comes to 911, I don't think we should stop with improved call routing. That's because across the board, we need to bring our 911 emergency communication systems into the future. There are more than 6,000 911 call centers all across the country, and many of them are using legacy technology that was built for an era when calls in crisis came in largely just over landline phones. That's not the time we live in anymore, and I think it's time to make the switch to Next Generation 911. Next Generation 911, of course, means better support for voice, text, data, and video communications. It means more redundancy to protect against outages, too. And for those who call 911, it means the opportunity to offer real-time video at the time of emergency. It will mean the ability to provide first responders with instantaneous pictures. It will mean the ability to transmit a patient's medical records directly to 911 dispatchers. And for those who take calls in emergency, all of this data is going to expedite and inform public safety efforts and dramatically improve emergency response. So here's the challenge. These kinds of 911 investments don't come cheap. And for the thousands of communities across the country that have to do these upgrades, it's not clear where the support to make them will come from. That's why I suggested we should put our public airwaves to broader public purpose in support of Next Generation 911. The FCC's auction authority is scheduled to expire at the end of this fiscal year. For those who don't keep the books, that is September 30th, 2022. And at some point, we're going to expect legislation to extend it, as we've seen in the past. And that's important so the agency can continue to offer airwaves for new commercial uses. We should work with Congress and public safety officials to use the billions of dollars that FCC spectrum auctions raise to build the public infrastructure this country needs. And we can start with using auction revenues to fund the nation's transition to Next Generation 911. I think this is a golden opportunity. It would benefit public safety nationwide and every one of us who dials 911 when the unthinkable occurs. In short, we can have an updated public emergency calling system that is built for the digital age, and we can use public airwaves to do it. So that's big and bold, but it doesn't take away from the effort at hand, because improving call routing is going to improve safety. In fact, I know it will in Little Rock and in communities nationwide. So I want to thank the staff that worked on this effort, including Brenda Boykin, John Evanoff, David Firth, Rasul Sabavian, and Rachel Ware from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, Douglas Klein and Anjali Singh from the Office of General Counsel, and Pat Brogan, Michelle Schaefer, Dina Shetler, Alex Yankovic from the Office of Economics and Analytics. And we will proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, please announce the next item on today's agenda.
Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners, item 3 on your agenda is an enforcement matter, and it will be presented by the Enforcement Bureau. Jeremy Marcus, Associate Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Because this order is an enforcement matter, we're going to switch the order up just slightly, as the Commission has done in past cases that involve similar presentations at an open meeting. As with all open meeting items, the Bureau circulated this to every commissioner at least 3 weeks ago. But there is a long-standing practice at the agency that we do not publicly disclose enforcement matters unless and until the Commission decides to take action. For these types of items, this means the agency formally votes on the item. Then here's a brief presentation from the Bureau before proceeding to any statements that the commissioners may have. This process ensures that sensitive matters will not be publicly disclosed until the FCC has voted to take action. We're following that precedent here, so we'll now proceed directly to a vote on item 3. And we will start with Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges if requested. Mr. Marcus, please proceed with introducing item 3 on today's agenda.
Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners, thank you for your consideration of the enforcement item before you today, a notice of apparent liability for forfeiture against Jason Frawley for willfully and repeatedly causing harmful interference with the radio communications of the United States Forest Service while it was engaged in efforts to combat a wildfire near Elk River, Idaho. With me here at the table is Sharon Bertelson, Field Counsel in the Office of the Field Director. I want to thank the Enforcement Bureau's hardworking front office, Office of the Field Director, and Spectrum Enforcement Division staff, especially our agents in Region 3 and the Portland Field Office, and Laura Smith, Special Counsel in the Spectrum Enforcement Division. I also want to thank our colleagues in the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau and the Office of General Counsel who contributed expertise and hard work to get this NAL completed. I will now turn it over to Sharon to give you the specifics of this important enforcement action.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. This notice of apparent liability for forfeiture finds Jason M. Frawley apparently liable for willfully and repeatedly and intentionally interfering with the radio communications of the United States Forest.
Please turn on your microphone.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. That's much better. This notice of apparent liability for forfeiture finds Jason M. Frawley apparently liable for willfully and repeatedly and intentionally interfering with the radio communications of the United States Forest Service while it and the Idaho Department of Lands were attempting to direct the flights of fire suppression aircraft working a 1,000-acre wildfire located on national forest land outside of Elk River, Idaho. For these apparent violations, we propose a monetary penalty of $34,000. On July 17, 2021, firefighting crews made up of members of the United States Forest Service and the Idaho Department of Lands were working the Johnson Fire, a 1,000-acre wildfire outside of Elk River, Idaho, when the U.S. Forest Service began receiving unauthorized transmissions on its government frequencies from an individual identifying himself as Comtech. The communications continued through July 18, 2021. On the afternoon of July 18, a supervisor of the U.S. Forest Service left the site of the fire, drove to the airstrip, and identified Jason Frawley as the individual making the unauthorized communications. He advised Mr. Frawley to immediately cease communications on government frequencies. On July 22, 2021, an agent from the U.S. Forest Service Law Enforcement and Investigations Branch drove to Frawley's residence to interview him regarding the incident. During the interview, Mr. Frawley admitted to having transmitted on government frequencies and acknowledged that he did not have a license for such transmission. That same day, the U.S. Forest Service filed a complaint with the Commission regarding Mr. Frawley's activities on July 17 and 18, 2021. On October 15, 2021, the Enforcement Bureau sent Mr. Frawley a letter of inquiry advising him of the complaint and directing him to address the allegations. He responded via email, admitting to the allegations, and stated that he had intended to assist the firefighting crews by providing them with specific details regarding the Elk Butte area. In the notice of apparent liability for forfeiture, we propose to hold Frawley liable for willful and repeated violations of Section 301 and 333 of the Communications Act and Section 1.903A and 97.101D of the Commission's rules, and propose a forfeiture of $34,000 for this conduct. For these reasons and the additional details laid out in the Notice of Apparent Liability for Forfeiture, the Enforcement Bureau appreciates the Commission's adoption of this item and requests the grant of editorial privileges for conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear any comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Thanks to the team for the hard work on getting this across the finish line and exposing it. Thanks.
All right. Our former ambassador from Enforcement, Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That is where my mind was.
I knew it.
This is a great job by the team. Congratulations on this, and goes to show the importance that the field does as well, in particular on what was a dangerous situation here and making sure that enforcement and accountability are had. So thank you for the hard work, truly.
Commissioner Symington.
I'd also like to thank the team and the Bureau for their work on this.
If you drive 6 hours north of Boise, you'll reach Elk River. It's the quintessential Idaho small town. And on Main Street, there's a city hall and a library, and if you head a little bit around the corner, you're going to find the fire department. Fires are all too common in places like this in the Northwest. Back in 2021, a wildfire ravaged more than 1,000 acres just outside of Elk River. It was an all-hands effort to contain these flames. The town had help from the United States Forest Service and the Idaho Department of Lands. To keep the community safe, these authorities worked together to address the burning acreage and coordinate with aircraft in the skies above. To do this, they relied on radio communications. In other words, they sought to use public airwaves to keep the public safe. But their efforts were thwarted by an amateur radio operator who was unlawfully transmitting on frequencies dedicated to public safety. You can't interfere with public safety communications, full stop. So today we propose the largest fine of its type for interference that put fire suppression and public safety at risk. Now, thank you to the Enforcement Bureau and the staff especially responsible for this enforcement action, including Sharon Bertelstein, Michael Karowitz, Leon Egal, Jeremy Marcus, Janet Moran, Elizabeth Buma, Axel Rodriguez, Laurel Smith, Ashley Tyson, and the staff from the Region 3 and the Portland Field Office, as well as Thomas Derenge, Charles Mathias, Roger Noel, Jessica Quinley, and Josh Smith from the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, and William Dever, Douglas Klein, Brenda McTaggart, Linda Oliver, William Richardson, Anjali Singh, and Elliot Tarloff from the Office of General Counsel. Thank you, Ms. Bertelstein. All right. And with that, we have come to the end of the June meeting. I want to ask my colleagues if they have any announcements at this time. Commissioner Carr? Nothing. Commissioner Starks?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. It is time for the summer interns in my office. And so I wanted to welcome them. First is Alexis Desotel, a rising 2L at Georgetown University Law School. Second is Shiva Sethi, a rising 2L also at Georgetown. They were section mates, and I'm going to ask them to rise here. It's been a while since we've had interns in the office, and so they were able to join and have been coming in, and so thank you. Third is Minerva Gomez, who joins the office from Seattle University Law School, where she is a rising 3L, and also part of is my summer paid intern with the FCC's Early Career Diversity Program. And last but not least is Case Smith, who joins my office from Harvard Law School, where he is a rising 2L. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Right, Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I'd also like to announce interns. The intern class in my office has all joined up now, and we're delighted to have them aboard, and they're already working on some great items. So first, I'd like to mention Susan Murley. She attended the University of Georgia for undergrad, where she studied economics and political science, and she's now a rising 2L at Duke. Susan is an expert potter, which is an area of professional distinction that I think is relatively underrepresented at the Commission. She's also served as director for the Thomas Lay After School Program during her senior year of college. This program provides after-school care for 2 hours per day for over 20 elementary school students. And she didn't just supervise things, but she managed the daily operation of the program and the staff as well. Next, I'd like to introduce Leo Packer. Leo's a sophomore at Brown University, where he studies international and public affairs and biology. He's also a U.S. Army ROTC National Scholarship recipient. And as if that weren't enough, he's furthermore a triathlete and an age group national championship qualifier in Olympic distance. So, hopefully we're going to see some of that incredible energy and endurance brought to the FCC's efforts as well. Next up, I'd like to introduce Dylan Berger. Dylan attended the University of Michigan, go Blue, for undergrad, where he studied political science and communications. He's a rising 2L at the University of Texas Law School. He's also a Steelers fan, so this may be a controversial opinion among some FCC members, but it'll be something for us to talk about. And he is apparently very knowledgeable in African gray parrot training, which I guess is maybe good in helping me prepare for speeches. Last up is Jackson Mcneill. Jackson attended the University of Arkansas for undergrad and is now a rising 2L at the University of Colorado Law School. Jackson is a member of the Silicon Flatiron Student Group and a member of the Dale Hatfield DC Scholars, so that's a name to conjure with around here. He just joined in this last week, and we're already I already had my advisor staff calling dibs during the introduction meeting, so I know he's going to be great. Thanks very much.
All right, a few things before we close out. First, I want to thank some fill-ins we had today who are first rate: Kim Stewart from the Office of the Secretary and Jacob Lewis from the Office of General Counsel. I also want to recognize Matthew Duchesne, who has ably served us as the Chief of the Office of Native Affairs and Policy for about 4.5 years. He departed this month. He has more than 20 years of federal service, and he's worked on a wide range of issues at different agencies, but it was starting in 2004 that he began working on tribal issues, and since that time has worked the Office of Government Ethics, the Department of Energy, the Department of the Interior, and some of his work has included Indian water rights and increased, of course, broadband access on historically unserved or underserved tribal lands. As the chief of our Office of Native Affairs and Policy, he worked really hard on the 2.5 gigahertz band rural tribal priority window, and he's also been an important part of interagency coordination on tribal issues across the federal government. So thank you, Matthew, for your service. All right, this is the news. Today, I am excited to announce a new step back to the new normal, whatever normal looks like now. Starting tomorrow, and for the first time since March of 2020, FCC is going to welcome visitors with pre-scheduled meetings at our terrific new L Street headquarters. And for those who haven't been in these parts, you'll notice we have replaced the famed 8th floor with the 10th floor, so get used to it. We've also swapped out the wharf for NOMA and the L'Enfant Plaza food court for the one at Union Station. But of course, the people and the mission at the FCC are the same, and we are excited to see familiar faces and some new ones in these halls in the coming months. To that end, we are going to post a public notice and a new visitor webpage this afternoon that's going to provide more details than I do here. And we're also hoping and planning to welcome the public and members of the news media to our July open meeting. We will outline exactly how that's going to work in the coming weeks. Let me also take a moment to thank all those who worked so hard to get us to this point. I want to thank those responsible for administrative operations at the agency, and especially the Office of Managing Director and its staff. I also want to thank the Safer Federal Workforce Task Force, the Office of Media Relations Commission Meeting Room team, and my fellow commissioners, both past and present, and everyone else at this agency involved in getting us to this point. I truly look forward to welcoming members of the public to these new headquarters. Madam Secretary, will you please announce the next date for the Commission's monthly agenda meeting?
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Thursday, July 14th, 2022.
Until then, we stand adjourned.